Welcome, everyone. It's good to see all of you and see some familiar faces and some new names and faces is also exciting. So this is the enrollment and marketing team that we are talking about today, and I'm excited to get started. I've asked Trey if he would start us off in prayer for the meeting today. Trey is my friend at Trevecca. And so, Trey, if you wouldn't mind praying for us to get us started, that would be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Let's pray real quick. Gracious and Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day, the gifts we've received, and for this amazing group of leaders. We're so grateful for the opportunity to meet together. I just pray that you'll be with each and every one of us as we move forward in our roles. Give us wisdom and discernment as we continue to navigate the effects of the pandemic. Help us to encourage one another. Help us to encourage those around us as well. Help us to bring your kingdom into what we do on a daily basis. Help us to remember the importance of our roles and guide us and lead us in all that we do. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Trey. I appreciate that. Okay, let me share my screen here. I've got a presentation, so some slides, so we stay on point here. Okay, so I'll just say a little bit about myself first, because some of you know me and then some of you may not. So I do live in Newark, Ohio, and I actually work for Southern Nazarene University, which is in Bethany, Oklahoma. So definitely possible to work for a place that is all the way across the country. And I'm excited and thankful for that opportunity with remote work. And so I've worked in adult Christian higher ed for over 10 years now. I can officially say it's a decade. It's funny, my Facebook reminder things in February from 10 years ago were reminding me. I posted that I was so excited I got my first job in Christian higher ed, and it was actually at Mount Vernon, which is where Katie's from. So yeah, it's been a good journey, and I love adult Christian higher ed. I've always worked on the adult side, never worked in traditional enrollment. I've been in a leadership role and a remote leadership role for 6 of those 10 years. Before I was in leadership, I was an enrollment counselor / recruiter, and I actually worked on campus, and then I also had experience working 100% remote as well. So have that experience as far as from a enrollment counselor standpoint, what it's like to be on a team and be kind of a lone soldier out there in your house by yourself. And my current situation is I lead 23 employees. 15 of those are remote, 8 are on campus. And fun fact, 0 of them were remote 20 months ago. So I started at SNU at the same time Carrie Hopkins did at SNU, and they didn't have any remote employees. And slowly we kind of looked at different positions to move in a remote format. And now there are 15 different positions on the team that I lead that are remote. So, okay, what I would like for us to do is in the chat, if you guys could put, where do you work? What's your position that you have? Are you remote? So some of you I know are remote, and then some people probably work from campus, but you have remote employees. And then how many employees do you lead, if any? And feel free to break out remote versus campus. I'm going to pull up my chat here so I can see what you guys are saying too. So if you'll take a second to do that, that way everybody can just kind of get to know everyone that we have on here and just your situations as well. Yes, so Carrie Hopkins is the first person I see on here. She's on my team here at SNU, and she manages one rock star who's also on the meeting today. Yay, Molly. So yes, and they're a huge, huge, huge part of our team. Dr. Eads, Provost. Yes, you have lots of people under you. Tammy, University of Northwestern, Assistant Director of Admissions, part-time remote, 2 employees on the data side. Awesome. Alyssa, I think you're Amax friend. Is that right? Community Cares Partner, Director of the State 75 team. You're not remote. You lead a team of 25. Awesome. Katie Booth. Hi, Katie. Okay, so you've been mostly remote probably since COVID. Team of 9, all remote. That's awesome. Molly, I mentioned her. Ryan, Executive Director of Enrollment, remote, 17 employees. Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, you guys can read down through these messages here, but it's exciting. It looks like most people have at least someone remote at this time. And I think that a lot of us are fairly new to that to some extent. Again, some teams have had people remote for a while. Others been remote mainly since COVID, or that's when positions really started to transition. And for us, we also were able to see certain positions that were successful when we had to have the shutdown. And then employees say, can I stay remote? Or some need to stay remote, right? They have health concerns and things of that nature. And so they've asked to stay remote. So awesome. Well, that's really cool to see. Okay, here we go. So setting goals. So just to kind of get us started here, one of the biggest things that I think you want to do with the remote team is make sure that you set clear expectations for your team, that they know what to expect, what you're wanting from them. That way they can obviously be successful within their roles. And for any enrollment or marketing team, I would hope and think that the number one thing is to have a sense of urgency for your team. And for specific response times, I like to set standards for our team and just kind of have a clear standard of like, this is what I expect of our team in response and different things like that. I do understand that there could be different response times that you might have as far as, for me, if you're going to respond to your supervisor, or my supervisor is on here, so I like to respond to him as quickly as possible throughout the day. But usually within an hour, or within 10 minutes if you possibly can throughout the day. But we have a response of responding to students or even other coworkers and staff within 24 hours. So even just, I know that seems pretty simple, but if you don't have like a standard that you've said publicly to your team, I would highly suggest that everyone just knows and understands that that's what's expected, so that they can abide by that. And I think definitely creating healthy accountability. So accountability can be an interesting thing because, people think, oh, they're trying to watch me or, micromanage me or something like that. But that's really not it. Being accountable just means that you get to show that you are working and that you're doing all the right things. And so I really appreciate responsiveness. Being remote myself, so I'm not in an office with my employees, and then a lot of them are remote also, or again, there are 8 that are on campus. What I really appreciate is people responding quickly to emails. And this is a little bit different than what I've heard people that are in an office with with employees, because they'll say they don't want emails back as far as like, got it, or working on it, or thanks type of a thing. And you might be that same way. Maybe you would prefer to not get those, but I personally really like to get those emails back. And I've expressed that to the team because that lets me know that they are working and they are on it and they did receive it. And that's a way for them to also tell me, hey, I've got it, or I'm already after it today, or whatever. So a lot of people on our team will do that. And again, just replying quickly is really important. I have on here leaders lead. So I would never expect anything of my team that I don't expect of myself. So if I expect them to respond quickly, then I should also respond quickly to them. Leaders lead from the front, right? And so always be sure that anything that you're asking of them, that you are doing yourself as well. I think that really just shows them you're leading by example. And expect more emails in an office environment. I even like to tell people that when we're in the interview process, as far as that is one really big piece to working from home, is your email or even your chat or like text messages, what have you. The volume for that's going to be a lot more, because you're not popping into somebody's office and having a little conversation or going down the hallway or whatever. So definitely expect to have more emails. And because of that, you need to have good organizational skills with your emails and make sure that you tell your employees that. So you want to make sure that somebody knows that they need to be clearing out their inbox. Again, maybe possibly have folders, or you definitely don't want to hear about employees that have hundreds or thousands of emails in their inbox. That's not good for a person in a role like this. You want to make sure that that they definitely have good organizational skills, and you do as well, as far as leading your team. And then multiple forms of communication. Again, this is kind of a given, but it's different than when you're in an office environment. So if you are leading remotely or you have remote teams, email, text, and chat. And I think, if you have a preference, definitely telling them, hey, I prefer that you contact me this way is good. There are certain people that you're going to learn on your team that they have a preference as well. I have people on my team that they really love the chat option. And so like all day long, they'll be we have Gmail. So they'll be, on there using the Google Hangouts and chatting all day long. And then somebody else might text me. And then there's some other people that I'm only going to get an email from them. So just knowing your team and how they communicate and having all those different versions is great. And something that I've recently started doing, probably within the last 2 years, is sending voice messages to people. So I don't know if y'all use this, but as a leader, it also can be good sometimes to just not constantly have things written. And then especially if it's something where you want someone to be able to hear the tone of your voice, to know that you're not upset, or they don't take something the wrong way, but maybe you don't have a ton of time you don't want to schedule a meeting, so it takes up another 15 minutes or half an hour or hour or what have you. Send a voice message. So I have an iPhone, and you can send one over that, or you can do it over Facebook has a feature to send voice messages. But I would strongly suggest that as well, because you can send as long as you want of a message. I try to keep mine under like 3 to 4 minutes. Sometimes they get a little bit long, and then I'm like, okay, I'm rambling. But sending voice messages is a really great extra thing, so that someone, again, they can hear your voice, they can hear your tone, they can respond, but you didn't have to like schedule a meeting and take up more of your time. So I would strongly suggest adding that to your check-ins. Okay, so typical work day for a remote worker. I think setting expectations for their schedule, and we do talk about this with our team members in the interview process. A lot of people also want to know, they will ask as well. And it's important that I like to set up each new person that they have a mentor or a go-to person that's training them. Now, if you have a smaller team, that might be you. You might be the person that they're going to go to and ask all of their questions to, which is fine. But I know, like, for example, if we have a new enrollment counselor come in, we would set them up with a mentor, which is another enrollment counselor on the team, that they can ask that person questions. And then if that person doesn't know, or they think, oh, you should ask the supervisor, then they would go on our team. That would be Rachel that they would go to ask a question. And I think that's just really important to kind of set up those levels of layers. One, so that if you do have a lot of responsibility, that they have somebody else that they can go to. And then also, a lot of times people like to go to a peer rather than a supervisor, especially if they're new, or they feel like they might have a stupid question or something like that, or they should already know something by now, type of a thing. So setting up a situation where they have that mentor or go-to person, really, it helps them to feel comfortable, but it also helps you out as well to not receive so many questions. But again, that just depends on the size of your team. So remote employees, their 9 to 5 looks different. This is actually the beauty of being remote or having remote employees, and especially with enrollment counselor roles or sales roles, they're not necessarily going to always work 9 to 5, right? Because someone in a position like that, they're doing a lot of output, and then they're waiting for responses. So they might get responses at 7 o'clock at night. They might get them at 7 o'clock in the morning. They might get them at any time of day or night. And so it really creates flex within their roles. That's also something to talk about as far as expectations, and so that people know when they take a role like this, that there may be times where a student's going to ask you to call them on a Saturday. And so, you don't have that structured 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type of a schedule. And so there are pros and cons, and I think that you have to create boundaries, obviously, as well. But we definitely on our team like to let employees work during their optimal hours for them. So especially with enrollment counselor roles, you don't want that to be too early and you don't want that to be too late. So you don't want to be calling people super early in the morning, 7, 8, 9 even is pretty early to be making phone calls. And then also you wouldn't want to have somebody calling people at like 9 o'clock at night, right? So they can't just work obviously whenever they want or text whenever they want, let's say. But there are certain hours that are different with remote work. And so just talking through that and setting those expectations. Also, I happen to be a night owl. If anybody knows me, you know that I'm a night owl. So I do my best work at about 1 o'clock in the morning, as far as emails and projects and things of that nature. And so I like to, obviously I work during the day and I have tons of meetings and things, but I catch up on email. And so if I have any projects or things I'm working on, a lot of times I'll do those really late at night. There's other people on my team, people on this meeting, even that wake up super early and like to do things at that time as well. So just knowing that there's that flex within the role is really important. Okay, biggest thing that I will say is even though there is that flex, employees really need to be available throughout the day, still within the 9 to 5, because that's when your support staff is working, right? So that's when financial aid is working. That's when admissions is working. That's when someone who's doing transcript reviews, for example, would be working. And with marketing, let's say that's when these other companies you're working with, they're going to be working. Obviously, if they're like billboard, radio, whatever, that's when you're probably going to hear from them. So you want to make sure you don't have people working such crazy hours that during the day they're like non-responsive and then they're holding everybody up. That I've been a part of that before, and that like bottlenecks everything like crazy. It delays things by a whole day. So that's a biggie for me, is people have to be available and responsive during the day, so that they don't slow everybody else down. Okay, monitoring workload. So obviously this is a joke over here that I should really log on and pretend to work. Really, that's not something that people can even do on our team, just because if you have systems and things in place to monitor what they're doing, then you don't have to worry about that. You know that they're working because you can see all of that. So I would strongly suggest that you have daily reports if possible that show your team's activity. Now, if you have a smaller team and you're not able to do it daily and you need to do it more like weekly, then I would start off with that if that's what you can do. But we've actually gotten to the point where we have daily reports that we see. And so I get a report every day that tells me the team's activity for the day before. And we monitor the enrollment counselors, advisors. We know how many transcript reviews were done. We manage our marketing projects in Active Collab, which is like a marketing project manager system. And so with the enrollment counselors, we are looking at how many activities they did the day before, how many files they've completed, which for us means how many people they've gotten all the way through the process to the acceptance decision. We would look again at transcript reviews. For advisors, we know how many advising appointments they had, how many people they have that are waiting on advising appointments. I'm sure there's a few other ones that I'm missing or thinking of, but I like to look at that daily. And if it's low, the biggest thing is check in with them. Oh, we can see overdue activities also. So if they have things that they were supposed to have done that they didn't do, we can see that as well. So that's how I know maybe someone's struggling. If you see someone has a lot of activities that were overdue from the day before, a lot of the time I have found that means something's going on in their life or they're struggling with something. So it could be they're sick. We've had that happen before where someone didn't say that they were sick. They didn't ask for a sick day and then they didn't do activities, and you check in, they're like, I'm so sorry, like I had a pounding headache yesterday and strep throat or something. And you're like, dude, take a sick day. But that will happen sometimes. And or it could just be that they really have gotten behind with something, and you've got to have a conversation about that as far as like, okay, let's talk through how much time are you spending on different things? You need to manage your time differently, all of that. And so I would say we're going to talk about this in the next slide, but definitely when someone is struggling, run to the fire. And if it is high, if they're doing really well, give kudos, give shout outs. So if there's like a team email that you have or a team chat, you can do it within that. We have like a weekly email that we send out that the enrollment counselor leader sends out, that she would give kudos. And if I see someone does something really well, I try to just shoot them a quick email real fast, like, hey, awesome job. Saw you got 8 apps last week. You're killing it. Like something of that nature. So just remember to do little things like that. I know it might seem small and really it only takes a few minutes, but especially when you have remote teams and they are kind of off on their own little island, they feel like at home, to get something really simple like that from you, even if you only have time to make it one line, it means a lot to them. And it means that they know you're acknowledging that you've seen how good their work is, right? And so that encourages them to do that more. So biggest thing I can say with all of this as far as monitoring workload is you got to keep the main thing. And that's where you do want to measure activity. But more importantly, the most important thing you could do is measure productivity. So by that, I mean, with enrollment, how many students are they actually getting? So it does matter, like, are they doing their activities or not? Yes, that matters. But what matters the most is making sure that they are actually recruiting students. Or again, if it's a marketing person or any other type of a position, are they completing the project they're supposed to be completing? Are they meeting deadlines? Are they getting the job done? But especially with enrollment in higher ed, it would be, do we have the students, right? Are they generating the students? So keep that the main thing when you're focused on things like that. And I would also suggest choose your battles. Don't micromanage somebody that's performing well. So I've had this happen a few different times. I would honestly say probably about 5 different times throughout my leadership time period, where there could be somebody that does something a certain way that you don't really like, or maybe, they're not as active during the day at a certain time period and that drives you nuts, or they say something a certain way and that drives you crazy. But at the end of the day, are they recruiting students? And are they doing a good job with that? And are they hitting their numbers? Because if they are, leave them alone. And that's a hard thing to do, especially if you want something done a certain way. But really, that is, you don't want to hurt yourself or your team just because you're nitpicking at somebody because of something that you personally don't like about the way they do something. So don't get on somebody that is doing really well. Okay, run to the fire. So I wanted to have a whole slide about this one just because this is a crucial and very critical part of being a good leader, especially within a sales type of an environment. And even when you have remote staff, because you're not in an office with them. So you're not like hearing their conversations. You might not know their personality as well, or things of that nature. You don't know their schedule and things. So if someone is not meeting your expectations, communicate that, talk to them about it. There have been multiple times that I've had people say, well, this person's doing this and it's driving me crazy, or I hate that this person does this. And I'll say, what did they say when you talked to them about it? Well, I haven't talked to them about it. Okay, well, if you haven't talked to them about it, they can't fix it. And they don't know that what they're doing is driving you nuts as their leader. So biggest thing I would do is obviously communicate it. Again, they can't fix something they don't know is a problem in the first place. And then bring in additional coaching or training. Maybe if you're the person who originally trained them and that's not working, try somebody else. Find another person that's really good at whatever they're struggling with and see if that person can help coach or train them. I would suggest going through their actually workday routine, breaking it down and trying to see if you find any breakdowns. That's helped me multiple times with different people that were struggling as far as like, okay, take me through your day. What do you do first? What do you do next? Like how do you prioritize things? And a lot of times there's a breakdown somewhere within that where something that they think makes sense, or maybe they thought you wanted that to be a priority for them. And you're like, no. I need you to do this first. And that's actually more like the 5th or 6th thing that you should be doing. And go through their activities files and their work and see if you can find anything to help them. That's something that we've had Rachel do quite a bit here at SNU. And it's been really helpful to just, look through their actual work and what they're doing, and then see if there are pointers or tips or things that we can give to help them improve on their process. It's important when you communicate with them that they don't feel like you're just like digging for some reason to, be upset with them type of a thing, or you're not digging through their stuff for the sake of like catching them in something. It's more that we're just trying to help everybody to be the best we can be. And at the end of the day, we want to get every single student we can possibly get, right? So that's the goal here. I would definitely suggest listening to them on a call if they could just call you in and you could listen to a call. Sometimes people use words that are harsh. We found that with some of our employees, they would use a word where as soon as they say it, you think, ooh, I really wouldn't, like, that's a little bit of a, harsh word. I wouldn't say it that way, or you don't want to scare a student off or something of that nature. So really listening to them and how they speak or different words or lingo that they use helps. And then also have them leave you a voicemail. Sometimes I think people, just the way that they're saying different things can throw that off too. So maybe you can tweak up their voicemail. Give specific goals and time periods of improvement. And it just depends kind of for me on the situation, like what time of year is it? How long does this person need to show that they need to improve, obviously? So like, let's say it's November. Well, you really couldn't give like a 30-day goal for that because it's Christmas break and all kinds of other craziness in there. You don't probably have start dates going on at that time or a lot happening. So that would be more like a 60 or 90-day time period window that you would give them. So just think about that as far as when you do have a conversation with somebody, you're going to say to them, hey, like, we're going to check back in on this and I'll communicate if it obviously continues, but I want to have like a goal time period of this getting better type of a thing. And then definitely be sure you document the situation. All of our HR offices would be saying amen right now, because you always want to make sure when you're having those conversations that you do document them for your sake and that person's sake, that you have all of that documented and squared away. And one of the hardest things to do as a leader is be willing to have the hard conversation if it isn't a good fit. Not a fun thing that I hate the most about my job, but the thing that it's something that is so critical to high performing teams is that you have to be willing to have that conversation. I do think that I don't ever want people to be afraid that they're going to lose their jobs constantly. That's never a good thing. You don't want people to be fearful every single day of, is today going to be the day? Obviously, no, that would be terrible. But I do think there's a healthy fear. I know myself, again, my supervisor is on this call, but if I didn't perform well with my job, he would let me go. And I know that. So I do have that healthy fear of I have to perform or I will no longer have a job. And I think that that's really important with high performing teams, that everyone understands you have to pull your weight, and that we all have to be successful. We're either going to win or we're going to lose together type of a thing. And also strong performers that are on your team are going to feel like they're valued and respected more, and they're going to be willing to stay longer if you do have those hard conversations with other people. So especially when I think back to my enrollment counselor days, or and a lot of you probably have that in your history as well, but there would be times where, let's say I had recruited 130 people and somebody else had recruited 20 or something, and you both know you have the same job and you probably make close to the same amount of money. It just doesn't seem very fair. And so that doesn't drive your employees to want to continue to work really hard and be high performers. So if you have that high performing team, you really have to be willing to have those hard conversations. And again, in a remote environment, it makes it difficult or interesting, but that's why you're coaching all along the way to try to get people to help them. Okay, so celebrate the win. So obviously I love to work hard, but I also like to have a lot of fun, and we love to celebrate wins and accomplishments. So I would strongly suggest you make a list of accomplishments. You can do that any way that you would want. Like, it could be a yearly list, it could be a quarterly list, by semester, whatever. I know that like when Carrie and I first started at SNU, we had created a list of just things that we had gotten done within that first year. And when you actually see it all together, there's just something about it, seeing in that like uniform environment where it's all right in front of you, that you're like, oh my gosh, like, okay, we are like getting somewhere and big things are happening, and it's really exciting. It helps everybody to get excited. So I would definitely suggest that, and celebrate the milestones, big and small. So some smaller ones would be like a new employee that got their first app or their first start. Share with your other enrollment counselors, like, shout out to so-and-so, first app, awesome job. And I know, again, that that's small, but that lets that person know, like, everybody's cheering them on. That allows their teammates also to cheer them on and to know what's going on in their life. Because again, they're off on their own, in their own little bubbles. So it lets them help each other and support each other. If a group hits goal, meaning like a cohort, or an individual enrollment counselor hits a goal, shouting them out. We have lead and app reports that we run every week. And so when those hit goals, we're like, or one, goes over a certain number or something, we're all like, yeah, awesome job. Like, we had a great week, type of a thing. Just always constantly having that stream of positivity flowing, that of the good news, of the good work that's going on. Okay. And again, that's going to help your employees stay motivated, that they know that you're watching also. I think that it's that whole accountability thing, but like, does it let them know that you're watching and you know how many apps that they had, or what they did? Yes. But for me, I hope that tells my team, like, again, that's an opportunity for them to do all the right things and show how awesome they are, and that we're celebrating that. So it's a healthy and a positive way of really showing accountability. Okay, so connecting. This is definitely a big one. And just knowing the personalities that you have on your team. The more I'm in leadership and the more years that I just go through this, and I have different people on my teams and things, so interesting, different personalities and things that people have. And so I would definitely suggest using tools like Myers-Briggs, the Enneagram test, StrengthsFinder. Here at SNU, before I even got here, StrengthsFinder, they had somebody come in, I think, and do StrengthsFinder. And so everybody on their signature line has their strengths listed, their 5 top strengths. And I just think that that's so cool. And what's awesome is once you really get to know somebody and you look at their strengths, you're like, yep, that is definitely so-and-so, like, that fits that person to a T. And so knowing your team, and those tests are a way to get to know them. If you haven't done that, that's a great way that you can do like a team building activity with any of those, and then talk through. We did one not too long ago that was for Myers-Briggs. I did it for the enrollment counselor team. And I talked about the strengths that we had. Was it Myers-Briggs? No, I don't think it was. It was StrengthsFinder. I did it for the strengths that we had, like, in common. So it was really cool. Out of the 9 people, there were a couple strengths, like 4 people had, I think 4 or 5 had in common. So that was really cool. But then celebrating other people's individual strengths that they bring to the team that are unique, that nobody else had, is also awesome, because you truly don't want a team where everybody is the exact same. That's obviously not the goal, right? And so now, are there people that I'm like, think to myself, I would love to clone that human and have like a bunch of them? Sure. But really, that's not the goal, right? We want to have people that bring a lot of different things to the table, and a lot of different things to the team, and have that diversity within the team. And so that's a great way to get to know your team. As a leader, and as a sports coach, or if y'all have a sports background at all, you cannot coach everyone the same way. You just can't. If I put my coaching hat on for a second, there's certain kids you can yell at, and there's other kids that if you would yell at them, they would break down. And so you have to know certain ones that they're only going to accept if you breathe life and positivity to them. And there's other ones who, if you yell at them, they're going to get mad and they're going to do better. And so, not that I'm saying yell at your employees, definitely not saying that, but I would definitely just say that this is why you have to know your team, and you have to get to know them, because you cannot coach all of them the exact same way. Certain ones need different things. Also, certain ones, if you are like super fluffy with them and you are super positive, they might be like, listen, I don't need that. Like, I don't need you to be telling me all those things. I just need you to be direct with me. I don't care about all of that. And so just even knowing that, you can't always also meet the needs of every person every time. So for example, if I have like a really large meeting, I know certain people on my team probably, and they haven't told me this, but knowing their personality, they're probably like, this is a waste of time. I don't really care about this. But then there's other people who it's breathing life to them. Like, they're like, oh, I'm so glad to see these faces and be in this place. And so you're not always going to make everybody happy either. And that's okay too. Be really vulnerable and relatable with your team. Just letting them get to know you. They will do the same thing as well. If you open up, they're going to open up. This is my personality, so this might not be yours. And if that's the situation, then that's totally fine. But for me, the weight and the responsibility of the job drives me to do better. As soon as I got in a leadership position, my first leadership opportunity, I was so nervous, and I had this moment of like, can I even do this? Because I'm usually just responsible for myself. And now all of a sudden I was responsible for 7 people. And that was really hard. But then I started to think about like, okay, take that responsibility that I have for those people and let that drive me as far as like, they're counting on me. So I have to do a good job because they're counting on me. And I actually take that a step further. I don't just think to myself that those employees are counting on me, but I think about their spouses. I think about their children. I think about their grandchildren. I think, all of them are counting on me to do my job. And so that, maybe that might freak you out and discourage you, but for me, it encourages me. Like, all these people are counting on me, so I've got to show up today. I've got to do my job today, and I've got to do a really good job. And being willing to just be vulnerable with prayer requests and personal needs. Again, some people don't like to get really personal in the workplace, and I totally get that as well. But anytime you can show that or share, a prayer request for your family or a friend that you have that's going through something or what have you, it just helps people understand like this is a family, this is a safe place, this is an environment where they're going to be loved and welcomed and accepted. And that creates a really strong team bond that others will want to be a part of. So yeah, it's a safe environment where they can let their guard down. So for me, one way that I really do that, being remote, is using social media. The main form of social media that I personally use is Facebook, just because I love it. And I don't have an Instagram or different things like that. But I like to use that to get to know people and connect with them, so that if I do have a meeting with them, or if I do get to see them in person, I already know a lot of these things about their life that I can ask them about, I can check in with them on, and what have you. And so learning about their interests, their families, their favorite shows. If you know me, I love the Vampire Diaries. Okay. I love all things vampire. But sports teams, like, you can, big games coming up, you can email somebody or have fun conversations about that. It's just ways to connect with people. And I do that though in a genuine connection. Like, I don't suggest anybody does that in a, I have to do this type of a thing. It really, for me, is a genuine way to get to know people and like truly support them. I love to comment on people's pictures and different things like that. It just helps me feel more connected to other humans, being a remote employee myself as well. I think that's a kicker too, is that I am also remote. So it helps me with that. And then I would suggest as a leader that you calendar things that are happening in people's lives. So like if I saw something on Facebook, somebody says on Facebook that Friday was a big day for them. I'm not perfect, obviously, but I try to calendar a reminder either like Thursday night or Friday morning. I would calendar something to remember to check in with that person, send them a quick text. We have somebody on our team who recently had breast cancer, and she was going through chemotherapy treatments and things like that. And I would try to write things on my calendar to remember to text her for the day and just pray over her and things of that nature. And so anytime you can do something like that, it just helps your team know that you, as their leader, like, you care about them, you support them, you love them with their personal things and with their, work goals and things of that nature. You could do the same thing with work goals. If there was like a big cohort group coming up, again, you could do that type of check-in, or you can schedule emails. I mean, all kinds of things, but I really suggest that as well. Okay, meetings. So everybody loves meetings, and everybody loves the meeting where it could have been an email, right? Where we talk about that. I know my day is filled with a lot of meetings, but I do strongly suggest that you have a consistent meeting schedule. If you truly have nothing to talk about, then obviously you can cancel it. But for the most part, I like to have consistent schedules. Another reason why you want it to be consistent is because these people do work remotely, And a lot of them have, kiddo drop off at school or doctor's appointments that they're scheduling or other things that they have going on. And so if you just sporadically schedule something, then it might not fit into what they had planned for that day, obviously. So I really try to be consistent with that as far as like bi-weekly meetings with each team tries to have a weekly or a bi-weekly meeting. And then they would check in obviously with whoever their direct supervisor is weekly. And we have a large team meeting at least once a month. Some meetings we have more to share than others. We always have some things to share for sure. And I talk numbers every single meeting. So that's something that I think is really important, that we're constantly talking about enrollment numbers and what we have going on and what groups we have coming up and what we should be focused on. And that's an environment where everybody is together and you can kind of get all of them on the same page as far as you as their leader, what you are asking of them or what we're working on type of a thing. Always suggest that you use that opportunity to talk about, hopefully how well you are doing. And then again, what you need to work on, game plan of attack. Maybe you say, okay, we're going to have some brainstorming sessions after this because I want this person and this person to talk through how we can get this group to do better, or I'm really worried about this month. So let's talk through that type of a thing. And at the end of the day, especially being a sales or enrollment type person, you never want to forget about the fact that numbers are human lives. And I think that that's something that we can do at times, that I really personally myself try to remember. And then we talk about even as a team that when we're talking about these numbers, we are talking about human beings and we are talking about a life-changing opportunity for advancement within their family, for their life, for their spouse, for the trajectory of generations possibly beyond them. And obviously overall, it's obviously for God's kingdom. That's the reason why we're doing the work that we do. And so just never forgetting that. I don't ever want people to think that, we always just talk numbers, and that's all that matters, because it's not. Obviously, there's a much greater purpose behind our why and what we do. Okay, video conferencing. I thought this was hilarious. When you're working from home and your boss messages you for a meeting and you're totally unprepared. So we have certain, just if we are having Zoom meetings, we ask everybody within the meeting to be on camera. Now, usually we would have, I like to not have the presenter mode, obviously, so I can see everyone's faces and not have that limited. But I like to do that so that everyone can see each other. First of all, if you were in a face-to-face environment, that's how it would be, right? You would all be around a table, conference table or whatever, and everybody would see each other. But then also, it just allows people to have that time together. If you're talking, you can see their expression back. You can see if they are laughing or if they're upset about something or if they want to interject. A lot of times you can tell that as well. If somebody has something they want to say, you can tell okay, they might unmute themselves. You can see that too. So we have that expectation. Now, what's funny is at this point, if someone's not going to be able to be on camera, they'll message us usually and say, one of the leaders or myself, and say, hey, I'm not going to be able to be on camera today because I had to drive to my doctor's appointment or what have you. Just wanted to let you know. So we try to have a culture of everybody knowing that when you show up for a meeting, to have your camera on. And then also for Zoom meetings, asking other people to get involved. So sometimes our team meetings run about an hour, and I find we're telling people different things, and it's informational, but there's not a lot of interaction. So we'll have somebody else share the devotional. We have somebody in our team share the devotional. That way it's not just that the speaker's voice every single time, or for us, we have each leader talk. But how I asked Trey to pray today, at least you got to hear another voice for the first couple minutes and not hear mine the entire time. And play fun games. So one that I recently have played with my team is Would You Rather. So I'll go around with each team member, and we did half one day, half another day, but just have a little fun Would You Rather game. Rachel in a team meeting did 2 truths and a lie. So she had up on the screen about each person 2 truths and 1 lie, and everybody had to guess in the chat which thing the person was lying about. Actually, it was quite hilarious. I strongly suggest that you do that one because it was really fun. But just break up your meetings with little things like that if you can, just to have fun. I think everybody, wants to have fun together and not always be serious all the time. I think this is actually my last slide, y'all. Okay, so annual retreat. If most of you, a lot of you are connected to me and have been for some time, so you know that annual retreat is something that we love to do, but I strongly suggest having an annual in-person retreat at least once a year. I actually didn't create this myself. It was something when I was at Ohio Christian, I was there for like 13, 14 months, and they had an annual retreat. And that really taught me that when I had my own team at Trevecca, I wanted to do that as well. I cannot tell you how much good the annual retreat does for everyone. It is just so awesome. It brings people together. They get to have, one-on-one time, not talking about work, but just like meeting each other and bonding together as a team. I had a work trip in November with some people on our team, and I have not laughed that hard since. Like, just had a really good time together bonding. And it's so important because you don't see each other all the time. And when you do see each other, it's probably on Zoom and you're probably talking about work, right? So it just has a lot of connection to the university and the campus. We are going to have a virtual retreat again this year with COVID. That's interesting planning. We did that last year too. So it's definitely possible. It just takes, you have to be more intentional. And then I'm going to try to do more games and stuff over Zoom. Also, I would suggest having it in small chunks. Like we last year did, I think 3 days, and they were an hour and a half or 2-hour chunks. That way, number one, everybody can still get work done the rest of the day. But then the other thing is, nobody wants to be on Zoom all day long, and we only have so much focus. So I would suggest doing something like that if you're going to do a virtual retreat. But definitely break bread together. There's something about having a good meal together and just spending time together that does a team a lot of good. Go to a restaurant, have something catered in, or we've done some budget friendly options as far as just having potlucks. I personally prefer the potluck because who doesn't like a good potluck with getting to try 15 different things? So, or you can have like a pizza party or something like that. And then fun games that I've done in the past with teams is like laser tag, escape room, bowling, arcade games. You could do like a painting workshop or something of that nature. Top golf, and a budget friendly. Again, if you don't have money, all those things cost quite a bit of money that I said up top, like $15, $20, $25 a person. If you have a really large team, like 20, 25 people, then that probably isn't doable. So other things you could do, card games, the heads up game. I don't know if you guys have played that, but that's really fun. The one where you like put the thing up on your head and they try to like act out or whatever. You're supposed to guess what's on your head. We've, I think Alicia's done games. She's on here. We've done games like with dice or different things. Obviously no gambling involved, but different dice games or things of that nature. So you can come up with super fun things that, don't cost a bunch of money. I really suggest having a faith-based element as well. So an in-person retreat, you could do like prayer and devotional and have like a worship pastor or something come in and sing with everybody. We had a couple of those types of elements in retreats at the past at Trevecca. But this last year when we did a virtual retreat at SNU, I had my brother-in-law. I asked him to come on Zoom and pray with us and share some songs with us and just like have some worship time together. So again, it wasn't the same, but I appreciated it. Like I said earlier, there could be some people on my team that are like, yeah, I could have left that. I didn't really need that. But I think also there are people that probably really appreciated it as well. And so I do think it's an element that you want to incorporate within your retreat, is to have some kind of faith-based element. And then use that time if they are coming to campus, set up meetings with other people, like make the most of it. So I try to squeeze in every single thing that I can. If I have an enrollment counselor coming to campus and they work with certain programs, I'm going to try to see if I can get those program directors or advisors to connect to that person and like have special time and meetings together. And lastly, have senior leaders participate. So I think that even I personally really appreciate it if the president or provost or other senior leaders reach out and check in on me or spend time with me. And I know that our teams do as well. And so whenever you have something like that, ask senior leaders to be there and schedule that ahead of time. And I'll be doing that again with our virtual retreat this year. Last year we had Dr. Newman, our president, attend, and Dr. Eads attended as well. And it just shows them that senior leaders do care about their work and they appreciate their work. And that really does go a long way of them knowing that they're appreciated. Okay, questions. Does anybody have any questions for me? I'll pull up the chat and stuff too. Anybody have anything you can think of? You can throw it in the chat or unmute yourself and ask. Okay. I did want to ask, this idea for this webinar came from last time. I had asked, like, does anybody have any other ideas of things that we could do future webinars or sessions on? And someone said leading remote teams. So I had written all of those down. Thanks, Ryan. So does anyone have like ideas on future sessions, things that you really want to know about? Again, this is enrollment or marketing. Ideas on different sessions. Actually, I can look out of this and I can look at the ones we had last time too. Last time we talked about, I'll unshare my thing too, since we're done. Working with a traditional campus-oriented marketing team, creating a lot of content with a small marketing team, communication flow strategy, prospect engagement. Those were some other ideas that people shared. So anything to add to that list? Or comments?
I have one question I'll jump in with about the presentation instead. I have one. So, you know, we've got a remote team and most people have been remote except for like 2 positions. And then obviously with COVID, kind of pushed everybody remote. And so now we've got everyone. I had a meeting with one of them yesterday. She actually came down to town and we met at a coffee shop because I haven't seen her in a long time. So we went to lunch and to coffee and we were talking and she was like, hey, I just want to tell you that like, I do not like working from home. And it was something that obviously like she had been forced into. And the reason was, is just because she doesn't get to casually run into people. So she's also not like somebody who's like incredibly extroverted, who's going to say, yeah, I'll call somebody up. Or even if she was on campus, even our on-campus culture when we were there is in non-traditional is a little quieter and a little more like closed door. Everybody kind of hunkers down and does their thing. And so she said like she misses just like the bustle of an office, right? So running into people and kind of like the casual water cooler kind of conversation that we haven't necessarily been able to replicate in a remote fashion. I mean, we have chat, so you know that, but then I've got like other people on my team who get annoyed when people are sending like funny chats because they're like, I'm getting too many notifications. So like, you know, some kind of hybrid there. I obviously want to, you know, I want to create a space where she feels comfortable and feels like she still gets some of that kind of interaction. So I don't know if do you have any suggestion on that?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think you did a really good job at meeting her in person because it sounds like she was wanting that or needing that anyways. You probably met at Coffee Bean. Is that where you guys connected?
Happy Bean, yeah. Happy Bean.
Happy
Bean. My second home. It's my second home downtown.
You're home away from home.
I love it.
So yeah, I think that was really smart. And that does happen from time to time. We actually have someone like that on our team. AMAC does, Chris Chavis. So AMAC, do you have anything you would want to share with that as well? And then I'll follow up.
I was like, sorry, I'm like that picture that was Johnna showed earlier. And I've already met with Rachel today. And in our own team, I show my crazy hair, but I've got short hair and it's crazy sometimes. And so first, thank you so much for your presentation, Johnna. It really is a lot of great information. I have 2 female employees that live alone. And so one is working remote due to health reasons. And it's really hard to understand completely if you have a home that's a family and have, you know, that chaos. But if you live alone, when you come to the office, that is a lot of your connection. And so one of the positions is a high detailed position that if there's a mistake, everyone gets notified. And so with that employee, she texts me and says, can we talk? And so we talk through a lot of problems that normally, if we were on campus, she would just come over to my office and we would talk through. And so I have a scheduled one-on-one every week with her for an hour. And even though we might not need it by Friday because we've already talked 3 hours in the week, I'll wait until I'm running an errand or I'm on the way to lunch to meet someone else, because I am on campus most of the time. And I call her and we talk through those, and it gives her the attention and it gives her the problem solving. And so by Friday, many times our one-on-one we cancel, because as long as she's gotten the time during the week. But if we haven't had that time, then I give her that time. And so sometimes you kind of, like Johnna said, being a good coach, sometimes you kind of have to meet people where they're at. And then I have another single employee, and she worked at a place that made her be remote. And it was very, very traumatic. The person didn't trust her. She made her basically log every minute that she was home. And she wasn't even trained well to do enough minutes of work. And so she was literally has trauma from it. And so she's like, please don't ever make me work remote. And I'm like, well, you don't have to take, the whole team gets one day remote, and she doesn't want it. And I'm not going to make her, because that's not comfortable for her. And it also gives her that family at work. And so I don't know, everyone has different things that they like and have to be connected. And I'll be honest, the way that we've worked, I miss seeing Kathy and Delilah as much as we used to, because we're in at different times. And Kathy and I had to have a phone conversation this morning to solve a problem and to connect on something. And so I kind of think that in 2020, we had gotten away from phone calls. We do so much written communication because it's convenient. But then we realized, okay, a lot of times we just need to have a chat if we don't have that ability to run up to an office. And so picking up the phone and chatting with people is also a good way.
Yeah, that's really good. And another thing that we have on our team, Katie, is anybody who is local, because this employee obviously is local or close to campus, I would assume.
Close. Yeah, she's like, it's funny. I thought she'd love being remote, because she's like drives 45 minutes or so. And so I was like, oh, you don't have to drive that, distance anymore. But I did mention to her something about, like, she has an office on campus, and at this point we can be back. And so, I said, hey, what if we schedule, like, I'm literally half a mile from campus. I said, what if we plan on being there the same day, or, something like that as an option too.
That's what I was going to suggest.
She probably is used to listening something she really feeds her soul on that drive that she's missing too. And so it's just so funny, like, when you really listen to what is going on. But my team also, we read book, do little book talks together that are very short reads and connect that way. So we find different ways to connect that are not just all shop talk. And so it kind of meets everyone's personality in different ways. And what's crazy is, like, we have a older gentleman on our team, and I thought, because it's optional to do the book talks, I thought he'd be like, I'm not doing it. He's in an MBA program, and he's like, I love the connection in these. And I'm just like, okay. So you just never know what will be that one thing that makes them feel like they're valued and seen.
Yeah, very true. And I think that it's really good to have a variety of different things. But we have like a remote office, because what happened was we had so many people go remote. How I said everyone was on campus at first, and then now we have 15 people that are remote. So we had a lot of offices that we didn't need any longer on campus, and we've restructured and moved things around and given academics quite a few of our offices and things, which is great. So we do have one office in our office suite that is we call it a flex office, and it's for remote staff, and we have a calendar for it. So if anybody that's local, that's a remote employee, wants to go into the office and use that office space, then they can put it on the schedule. If we have like a day that there's going to be a meeting and they want to come in for the meeting and then use that office for the day, they can do that as well. And maybe that would be good for her, like even if just one day a week she came to the office. But like you said, she probably would want to see you perhaps, or just, be around other people. And then I think, really telling employees like that too, like as leaders, we can do a lot of things and we can try to connect a lot of people. But at the same time, a big thing for me is saying like, they have to be proactive and like reach out to people too. So like find somebody on the team that they really connect with, that they either go grab coffee with, or, if I have like friends like that are in a lot of other states, so we'll just have a coffee chat over Zoom. We'll be like, hey, I need some time. Like, let's do like a 30-minute coffee chat or an hour coffee chat. They have to be intentional as well with reaching out to other people too. So there's a few suggestions there that hopefully would help.
Yeah, thank you. I actually have a 1 o'clock, so I need to jump off of here. But
Okay.
thank you,
sweet.
Johnna. Super great.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
We need to have lunch or something.
Let's do it.
All right. Bye. Okay, friends. Does anybody else have any questions or anything before we go? Awesome. Well, I do appreciate everybody joining today. Hopefully you all got a few nuggets of information that were good for you. I do have obviously the presentation, so I can give that to Renee and maybe she can email it out or something. I think she has all of your emails. So, and then if you have any questions, just